questions here. We'll definitely get to them. We're going to mix it up, mix it around. Mr. Parks, why don't you go next?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would, first of all, I'd like to thank you very much also for bringing these things to the public. If everybody can hear me, I'm a retired military veteran, CW4, 30 months in Vietnam. I'm here in the uniform and I'm wearing this. I'm authorized to wear it, but I wear it always as an upside down flag for the veterans. And that is because 16 states now have passed legislation making the medical use of cannabis, also known as marijuana, legal for medical use. I have to admit, a few years ago, I thought it was a joke. I went to a medical conference in Rhode Island. I've learned a lot about it. The state of Israel now, beginning in January, produces and distributes marijuana to all of its citizens under a doctor's supervision. The Speaker knows we have a bill that was written by an attorney, Ben Scales. It is one of the strictest written bills in the country because he told me only palliative care. That bill was written to refer to doctors and patients, not even nurse practitioners, but MDs. And a veteran...
All right, Mr. Parks, I want you to get to a question.
I'll get to it very quick. Those 16 states, the veterans are protected. But if you're in a state that does not have a state, if they don't have a state law, what happens to the veteran is he's denied any further medical care at a clinic. And I would ask you, if you know, if the National Cancer Institute says it could be curing cancer, like it kills the pain, or if somebody with PTSD like myself, I'm also disabled, tells you that it works in my case, then I ask you, how can you in good conscience tell me that you're going to deny me this medication because I live in North Carolina instead of Rhode Island, Nevada, or one of the other states that have legal? The Democratic Party, overwhelming the 535 members in all 100 counties, says we want this done. We want all areas to do to protect the veterans. So now it's up to the Republicans, and the Speaker's been very receptive to listen to the evidence. And if we pass this bill, North Carolina could become a state that produces a plant that cures cancer, instead of one that produces a plant that at the very least contributes.
All right, Mr. Parks, you don't want to ask the audience some questions. I don't think you're rushing you, but I just got to keep us
I hope you will keep in mind that the veterans deserve to be protected. If they choose to use cannabis instead of the narcotics, and I can show you this paper, this is the New York Times.
Yeah, there's a rule here in terms of house rules. Number one, when time's up, it's up. And two, if you want to pass out things, I'm happy to do it, but we're not going to build a case or argue for any one thing. And I want to respectfully get to the discussion you and I have had, and that involves them giving us some feedback, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Mr. Parks has been up and down the halls of the legislature for a few years since I've been there, and he was at a town hall meeting earlier this week. And I told him that this particular issue was something I took interest in a couple of years ago. Representative Earl Jones, held a committee meeting on marijuana use for palliative care, which is for pain, primarily for pain cessation, and to also help take the edge off of the side effects of certain drugs, particularly cancer treatment drugs. And so I went, and it was only me and one other person out of this whole committee. It's a pretty good committee that showed up, because the other people were afraid to be seen there because they thought we were all a bunch of potheads. It's a very serious subject. And I think if you talk to palliative care physicians, the data is out there suggests that medical marijuana use does help these people that do not respond to other drug treatments. But now, that with a little bit of background, it's still a politically nuclear thing, particularly in a fairly conservative state, particularly in the fairly conservative Southeast. And so one question I have for everybody here, you may not even know about this subject before you came in. How many of you here would actually support legalization of marijuana? I'm going to do it in 3 terms, so I'm going to do the most aggressive first. Legalization of marijuana, so much so you can pick it up at the 7-Eleven. Good. Legalization for medical use. Okay. And then the remainder is more or less leave the law as it is. That's pretty much representative of of the group. The odd thing about it, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but the odd thing about it is how we have somehow as a society said that opioids, highly addictive, Oxycontin, all these other drugs, it's fine for everybody to have, just get a doctor's prescription. And then this category of potential medicine is somehow wrong because of its history in terms of illegal use. You know, I think trying to find a way to strike a balance and provide this is just one other tool, like all these other drugs are coming on the market to solve problems, is something to look at. What I don't support is what's going on in California. And I don't support all the camel's nose under the tent stuff where they say, oh, it's for medical marijuana, and now you could go get marijuana in California if you had a cramp. I mean, and literally, I mean, it's readily available, and that's what's discredited what you're doing now, because Mr. Parks, that's what's happening. So we got to figure out whether or not there's an appetite for that sort of thing in North Carolina. I think it's a tough haul, and what you were referring to in terms of Congress is obviously Congress doing a resolution, which is an easy thing to do. It's actually passing the laws, dealing with the law enforcement issues and everything else to make it a lot more complicated. It's why only less than a third of the states have actually moved on it. Somebody want to answer? Yes, ma'am. Let's get your microphone.